Are your people working hard but not reaching their full potential? The problem is not effort, it is development. At the Modern Observer Group, we transform workforce development into real performance. Our human-centered achievement programs help your team think better, communicate stronger, and execute at a higher level. That means higher employee engagement, stronger leadership, and measurable results across your organization. If you want a workforce that performs, leads, and delivers, it is time to invest in your people. Visit modernobserver.com and discover how the Modern Observer Group helps you build a workforce that wins.
We are lighting the candle, a world that works. Hello, everyone. I'm Bill Correll, and I'm here with Jan Jeremias, my partner in empowering the world. And we try to do a little bit each week, to help put into words some of the things that we're experiencing and feeling. And hopefully, by you being along with us, some of this will be beneficial to you, and that's why we do it. I have no doubt that it's beneficial to us. We're now in the fifth year of doing this, probably getting close to starting the sixth year. But at the same time, what it comes down to is that all the things that are good in the world begin with conversation, I say. So if we're really lucky, from time to time, we're going to hit on a few things that will help make this a more pleasurable experience for all of us going around the sun. Hi, Jan. How are you doing today?
Okay, Bill. Thanks. Yeah, it's good to be here with you and everybody else out there in hopefully, virtual land.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day out there. It's 60 degrees where I am, and it's supposed to get to 65 by 3 or 4 o'clock. So that means I will be heading out to drive my convertible around with the top down. And hopefully I'll have my blushing bride with me messing her hair up.
I love that.
So this is hard for me to believe. We have one more day, and then March of 2026 will be gone.
Yeah.
1 quarter of 2026 in the rearview mirror. And I have to say, for me personally, this has been a year of ups and downs, but for the most part, it's been a year that's been quite good. And that means that every life has to have some things that are not too enjoyable going on in it, and some setbacks and grief and that sort of thing. But on the whole, I'm celebrating a little bit because a little over a week ago, I made my completion of 72 revolutions around the sun. That's kind of a long trip, really,
Mm-hmm.
And up until this generation, it hadn't been done by very many people in my family. As a matter of fact, no one. My dad laid new groundwork, and he made it to 1 month short of 89. So, being a semi-competitive human being, I want to beat that mark. I want to do it. I want to do it with all my teeth, with my hair, with all of my limbs intact, and with all of my relationships in good working order.
Mm-hmm. That's a nice idea or intention. I had a friend, I knew a woman and she used to say that her claim was that when she was in her 80s, that she could go through any airport and not have to, because when they ask you, do you have a pacemaker? Do you have any, do you have any body parts that are not your own, basically? She said that was her claim, was the fact that everything, basically she went through with everything that she had been given when she was born. She didn't have anything artificial in there. So, I always thought that was great, nice, like kind of role. She's like, yep, I go through with all my own body parts.
I like that. I think it's kind of cool. There's another distinction that I have as well. When my dad was my age, he had a counter full of prescription medications. And quite frankly, it's been a big deal to me to minimize that as much as I possibly can. And the fun part of it is in the last 3 months, since the last time I saw my dentist, and we've got a budding cavity that's not quite there to really need to have anything done with it yet. So she put me on a prescription for fluoride toothpaste. And that's the only prescription that I have at the moment. And I'm pretty happy with that situation.
Yeah, I'm quite similar. I mean, I have one other thing I need to take, but otherwise, I'm also prescription free.
Yeah.
And I always, um, yeah, I think it is, it's kind of like shows a lot about lifestyle and about, choices that you make and money where you're willing and where you prioritize where you put your money. Like
Yeah.
for me, I give up certain things so I can buy certain supplements and can do a lot of the practices that I do, which are not covered by any sort of health insurance or health plan. And so I pay out, but that's a choice I make and it's a conscious choice. I mean, I could choose to do other things with that money, but I choose to spend it there for that purpose.
Well, you know what? I feel the same way. And for a good 40 years, I've had very expensive tea, as my doctor called it. Along the way, she said, well, I can't really tell you that vitamins do anything for you necessarily, but if it makes you feel better, then by all means do it. But I probably average somewhere on the order of $120 a month worth of supplements and vitamins. And I take them every day religiously. And the neat part of it is, I think the neat part of it is that I actually notice if I don't have something that I usually take it that's not there,
Mhm.
or you know what I mean, is like it's missing.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's part of being responsible for what's coming. Maintaining health isn't something that you can cram for. You can't all of a sudden get healthy in a week or two. You're either living that way every day or you're living a different way. And that's not to draw any uh, conclusion that one way is better than another. We all get our own opportunity to make choices how we go through this life. But I think from the perspective of some people that I've always had a high regard for their ability to research things, um, nutritional supplements and vitamin supplements that were intended to support different systems, in the body, uh, got my attention early on.
I mean, first of all, I can say that I spend more money than that on my supplements each month.
Yeah.
Quite um, certain general ones and then very targeted ones for specific sort of issues or specific things. And I think that I do also feel a difference if I miss them or if I run out, where I definitely feel, like something is missing. Not in an addictive type of way, but in a way that I just don't feel like I function as well.
Yeah.
Or certain things start to manifest, and I'm just like, and that could be something physical and it could be something emotional. It could, but I notice a difference. Um, I think that, um, I don't want, I, yeah. And so I think that it is really important. And I do think it's a choice and not to be critical. Everybody does make their own choices as to who they want, how they want to navigate. And where they want to allot their money or how they want to allot their money and distribute it into what, and also for that of their families. So I always, how they choose to help their family and how, whether they want their families to be, to me, as healthy as possible. Um, so that's, the way I look at it is it's not, one is if we take care of ourselves, we are less of a burden, hopefully, as we, on the ones we love, and having to care for us or whatever, or we hope to be or try to be anyway.
Yeah,
And the other thing is also, helping them to hopefully make wise choices also.
exactly. I think from one perspective, I was very fortunate to be around some loved ones who were heavy smokers, back in the day. And I too was a heavy smoker, until through my 20s. And at one point, I had a very high stress job, and I probably drank too much and smoked too much. And there was just came a point when I couldn't breathe anymore. And when I got to that point, I just said, "This is nuts." And kind of coincidentally, to the time that both my dad and I were talking about quitting smoking, I lost an aunt. I lost a dear neighbor who had been with us since we were small kids, moved into the neighborhood, and we called her Nana. And it's just a horrible way for people to spend their last days not being able to breathe. And I just decided that I had too many things to live for, and in the present and in the future, because I had two beautiful little girls and my wonderful wife, who we've been together over 50 years, but coming in June, we will be our 50th anniversary together. Um, I look back, I have some time on my hands right at the moment to sort of think about some of these things. And it's not lost on me the wonderful, diverse experience life that we have had. Having this home be our foundation and our place in the world. We're coming up on 50 years here as well. So um, I don't know where all of this is coming from today, but I am feeling very satisfied that I can be here, be in a good condition, um, enjoy the things that I do. Like this past weekend was absolutely fantastic for the University of Connecticut Huskies basketball teams, men and women. And I think for the first time, um, I'm really, really enjoying looking forward to those kinds of contests. And when I think about all of the things that have happened over the years, we had season tickets to the Huskies for almost 20 years, men and women. And to the point where we never went to any of their national championship runs. We never, flew down to St. Petersburg or, Nashville or Houston or wherever the games were going to be. But I think if I had the opportunity to do it this year, I might just get on a plane and go out there and do battle with the crowds and eat bad popcorn and hot dogs and cheer my Huskies on over one more weekend.
Yeah, I do think that, what you describe as being in the same place and the same experience, and all those varied experiences and everything. And I think that's first of all beautiful. And I think that's what we all, I think that's what we all want. We all desire kind of have experiences of life that we realize the blessing in them. And I think I posted about that today is to recognize and take a moment to acknowledge those things. For me, you talked about the smokers in your life, the people who smoked and everything. And for me, I think a few of the changes, coming from, work stuff where I'm in a lot of facilities, assisted living, long-term care facilities, memory care units. I think that it was always became somewhat of a personal passion for me to try to stay as healthy as possible. So I didn't need to take advantage of those types of facilities. I wanted to stay out if I could. And so that was one of the impetuses for me to take care of myself. Was just that. And I understand, sometimes you don't have control over everything. And sometimes, and I'm not critical of anybody who ends up, I've long given up long ago this idea of, how could someone end up there and whatever, because you realize sometimes care is not, people aren't able to give the care that people need. But I think to the best of my ability, I decided that I didn't want to have to utilize those places for myself.
Yeah.
That became very important to me.
And it also implies that you've had a situation, Jan, that a lot of people have not. I know that there are folks, I mean, like I look at my two parents and how they lived their lives. They really didn't have a life that was worth talking about until they were, into the retirement years, because they spent all the rest of the time strategizing, conniving, doing whatever they had to do to raise 6 kids, and get them to different places in their lives. And when I think about the knowledge that we have that didn't really exist in any fungible form, prior to the 1960s, say, from a health standpoint, what's good for you, what's not good for you, what were the fads that people were doing, to lose weight, what was it that that was the most important for a 40-year-old man, in 1975, to go about attaining, in the world. We have had a generation of a lot of inward looking that I think most of our parents spent most of their days, unless they were in a unique situation, of just trying to get from 1 month to the next, and in many cases, if they were good at it, sooner or later, they had more free time to think about what was going on in their mind or what was going on in their life. What would they like to have that wasn't necessarily present already? And what's really nice about where we are right now, in my opinion, is that we have had an education that is far more robust than the kids are getting today in terms of the general information and how specific and factual so many parts of it have been. And when I look at the core that was created in terms of how teaching was done, it really kind of gives me some hope. I was reading about what they're doing in Sweden now. They're going back to teaching with pencils and notebooks, and no iPads, no computers or anything like that. They are teaching the kids the fundamental mechanics and the muscle memory that comes with writing notes down by hand and not typing them into, or speaking them into a device, and teaching how to do math longhand, and teaching facts that the kids can write down in their own hand, and therefore they're seeing a much stronger representation in terms of memorized knowledge, if you will. And it's the memorized knowledge that allows you the facility to start to make some scientific, theses and suggestions and what ifs. You can't dream and you can't grow if you don't have something to stand on in terms of where you're starting from. And what we're seeing is that critical thinking has more to do with being able to ask a good question that is appropriate for the situation and time that you're in than just asking a question. And there's a big difference. I think a lot of today's kids are taught to challenge, but not to question. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I love that idea of going back. And I think I look at, you see, and I look at health the same way. I think we need to go back to basics.
Right.
Um, I think that we need to go back to looking at nutrition and food and quality of food and our environment and what we expose ourselves to toxin wise on a daily basis. And I'm not talking about like I'm talking about pesticides on lawns and and quality of water and not only things that and what type of personal care products we put on and how many, and then nutrition. I mean, that might sound extreme to a lot of listeners, but I think we have to start looking at all those things. So not only do we need to get back to basics as far as education, I think we need to get back to basics regarding health. I think we have to look at in that way our ancestors were far more advanced than we are. They knew what, and some people might call it folklore medicine or, you know, but you knew what kind of herbs or spices were good for certain ailments and you know, what you should be using in your environment that might help you feel better and how that might remedy a situation versus automatically jumping to a pharmaceutical or to a quick fix solution. And I think that we need to get back there in addition. I think that, you know, I think that that's something that needs to happen. I think, first of all, I think, talk about going, I think the cost of health is just so extreme.
Right.
Well, and when I say health, I think I'm talking sick care, health and what most people consider health. I mean, I don't consider, I think that cost is so extreme that I think it's in that way, it's a necessity. Yeah.
I'm with you, and I really think that um we have a language problem, which comes from people wanting to have things sound better than they are. It's not wellness care; it's sick care. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, absolutely. That's what I always call it. It's sick care. It's not health care and it's
Yeah.
not wellness care. It's sick care.
No, the industrial medical complex is designed at helping people diagnose something wrong with them and then getting paid for treating it. And in many cases, it might be something that is real. And in many cases, it might be something that is not so real. And in many other cases, they're so busy going after a particular set of circumstances or symptoms that they don't actually treat what's going on. They're only, dulling the symptoms. And the other thing, when you were talking about how our ancestors had it better, they were eating whole foods,
That's right. Exactly.
were unmessed with. They, they used organic fertilizers. They everything was everything was available from as far as they could throw a rock, really, for the most part, or within a day's ride on a horse. But when it came right down to it, they didn't have a penchant for overeating because they really didn't have spare time to do it. If you think about the obesity factor in our culture, we're constantly being bombarded with messages that tell us that consuming and overeating is really it's the way to go. Overeat all you want to, but look like you just stepped out of an Olympic decathlon. And it's not true. It's not real.
Well, it comes with its own set of, um, let's say, damaging effects that happen afterwards.
Right.
Yes, you can at that, and you can go to something that where some sort of, let's say more pharmaceutical based kind of element of getting fit or getting thin. But usually what ends up happening is that you are still malnourished. and the fact that you don't have the right nutrients. And I agree with you as far as like, yes, the old thing, let food be thy medicine, and let thy medicine be food. Um, how do you, I mean, the old adage of garbage in, garbage out, like how, if you only eat harmful, like processed, very chemically based things, your body really doesn't know what to do with it. Your body's sitting there going, this is foreign. Like it's chemicals. Like I know what to do with food that's alive.
Right.
That's kind of, I know what to do with that. I know how to process it. I know how to incorporate it. I know where it needs to go in the body. And I know what does not need to be absorbed, and I get rid of it. If you bring in a whole bunch of processed formulated kind of components into the body is like, really, what is this? This is foreign material.
Right.
And what do we do with foreign material? We fight against it. And so basically that's inflammation.
Yeah, we do live in constant attack of inflammation, don't we?
Yeah, inflammation. I actually have a webinar I'm going to listen to that I was sent on inflammation that I want to listen to, given by Dr. Jim Stringham, who's a really amazing scientist, and I'm looking forward to listening to that. But yeah, and so I think that what you spoke about, like that's, to me, that's the key to getting people healthy, is to go back. And I do love what you shared about education. And it reminds me of, and I've spoken about this before, of a few things of not even when kids are in school, is like, where did we grow up? We grew up outside. Unless the weather was really, really horrific, we were outside.
Right.
And I'm not saying that necessarily. TV was in effect, and we were big TV kids. I would have stayed in and watched TV if I had had a choice.
Right.
Under a lot of circumstances. And my mother was just like, no way. You got to go out. I'm sorry. You cannot sit in the house all day.
Yep.
You've got to go outside. And so we were forced to go outside. I was speaking to one of my students who is like works at a Montessori school, and we were talking about recess, and we were talking about how when we grew up, it basically, I remember going to school, and we would go with like our rain jackets and our rain boots, and it would be raining, and we would be outside at recess.
Yes.
We would be outside. Like, it was very rare when we would not be outside.
Right.
As kids, even in school, for those recess or periods when we were not in class. And so there's something about, that too, is it's not only when it's like limiting that technology, getting kids outside to play, letting them, taking away all the electronics as far as toys goes. And I'm not saying you have to take them away, full, like all the time, but there's something very, there's a lot of opportunities to be very creative and use imagination, which I don't think is totally explored these days at all.
Well, I think that was the default in bringing electronics into a lot of kids' lives, was look at this. You can teach them how to make games. You can teach them how to do this. And then what do they end up doing? They end up either watching someone else playing games. When I saw my grandkids doing this, they're on YouTube watching these other kids react to somebody playing games. And I'm going, what are you doing? Go play the game yourself, or go outside and throw a ball around. Go get dirty. Go do something, But sitting and watching other kids react to someone playing games? What? What the dickens is that? The subtle message there is that your life isn't one worth living, on your own. So you have to spend your time admiring somebody else, who's showing you how to react to other people doing things. What? No, that's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, at first I like the fact that you brought that up because I think that's kind of that's a thread that goes through everything. If you think about it, is that kind of sitting and observing, and it's like, I think you see it in social media where you sit and you observe people having a life basically.
Right.
And, whoever that is, could be somebody famous, could be a friend. But we spend a lot of time observing others and what they have and what they're doing versus experiencing it on our own.
Yeah. I don't know. I get a lot of criticism for all the posts that I do on Facebook, but I mean, I'm not really trying to do a Truman Show. I'm really not trying to just. I have no problem with personal transparency. Um, I'm a foibled human being. I have bad habits and thoughts, but at the same time, I don't think I'm much different than everybody else. I think all of us have the propensity to be really, really great at times, and other times just be, sometimes feel like you're barely alive, but I post the pictures and stuff that I do from a very, very selfish standpoint. I've been doing it since 2008, and they still come up as memories. I get to experience, shared moments with friends on Facebook, where we've been friends for a long time, and something that happened in their life that I commented on comes back up for me to see again. And no, that's not me living vicariously through other people. That's me re-experiencing a thought or re-experiencing a feeling that I had maybe 10, 15 years ago. It's a chance to, kind of lay that onto what's going on currently in my life and just saying, where am I? Have I emotionally upgraded from there? Am I, still having the same feelings? Do I miss that person because they're no longer here and I am? Um, it's more from the standpoint of I'm being responsible for putting some things into my future that are not going to be there if they are the same as all of the photographs that we used to take that are sitting in drawers right now.
Mm-hmm.
We have tons of photographs that we took before social media came along that we never look at. I think the last time we pulled out our wedding album was probably a year ago. And it was probably 5 or 6 years since we did that. If someone else is around, like the kids or grandchildren, we'll pull them out to show them, just to say, yeah, this is what we used to look like, back in the day. And, but other than that, I mean, there's thousands, literally boxes of photographs that were from over the years from when I was a kid, or things that we inherited from other family members who have long since passed away. And we don't even know who all the folks are in those pictures.
Mm-hmm.
At least the stuff that's coming up from 15, 18, 20 years ago on Facebook. It's all stuff that I have the recollections of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Or it actually says something, in the comments or whatever. But so I'm thankful about that part. And I'm also very interested in sharing experiences with other people and getting feedback from them, how they're going through similar experiences as well. So for instance, when I go to the dermatologist and I'm going to have my biopsies done and all that sort of thing, I'll be very explicit in terms of, because I've been doing it for 13, 14 years. And there are, literally hundreds of people that have made comments or sent me messages afterwards saying, I'm so glad that you're open about this. We all go through it. If you get to be 60 or 70 years old, you're going to have skin cancers. And you do something that really kind of makes it less scary, just by openly talking about it and discussing the process of detection, the remediation or extraction, and then the recovery of it, and making it more normal and less scary, if you will.
Hmm. Yeah. My brother's really into like old photographs and, has a whole family history, like a whole family tree, has written as much as and has investigated a lot and has written down almost everything that he can write down. Um, I think I do look at social media and stuff that pops up. I don't necessarily repost it, but I always find it interesting to reflect on, the fact that I still post about the same things. Like, the things I tend to post to haven't changed that much. My values have really not altered to any great extent.
Right.
My posts and stuff like kindness and peace, like not much has changed because I posted about that 10 years ago or 15 years ago, so it's almost sometimes like I'm like, okay, well, I guess not that I have a question that I believe it, but I guess it's still, really important to me. It's such a core value, and it's a good reflection on that certain things like life can change a lot, but certain things don't.
Yep.
And so that in that way, I really love it because I think to myself, like, I still hold the same things as being of value and of being of great importance to me.
Yep.
Equality, fairness, you know, treating everybody with kindness. Like those still are who I am and will be till I'm not. And hopefully maybe after it'll last anyway.
I get it. That's who you are for me.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting sometimes and fun to see what comes up, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I posted this, 8 years ago, 10 years ago." Um, yeah, and I think it's a post I think sometimes when life, we feel altered by life because life circumstances kind of brings us out and kind of spits us out afterwards, and we're feeling drained or exhausted, and whether it be from loss or illness or whatever. I think it's nice to get reminded in that way that really the essence of who we are is still there.
Yep.
And that's a value to me when I look at those posts. I'm like, okay, after everything.
Mm. It's kind of intriguing as well to watch other loved ones. The neat part of this is I've got family all over the United States, and to stay in touch with them, even at a superficial level, back in the day, maybe a birthday card, um, more than likely a Christmas card. Stopped doing Christmas cards back in the 80s. I decided that the $300 or $400 a year I was spending on doing Christmas cards was better off as a donation to the local soup kitchen. So I think everybody understood that. And then, of course, there were the family members that continued to send Christmas cards until they expired. A couple of favorite aunts and some other good friends, but it's a good time of year. I love that it's going to be in the 60s. It actually is in 60s right now. The temperature makes the longer day a lot more fun, if you will. I like the long, that it stays light now until after 7 o'clock. And you stop and think about it. 2 months ago, it was getting dark at 4:30 in the afternoon. Heck of a way for human beings to try to exist. You do the normal daylight things. You don't get up and do the daylight things when it's daylight. You do them according to the schedule that you had when the day ended at 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. And it's just not, it's not okay for me. And I know my dear beloved wife absolutely does not love getting up in the dark and coming home in the dark.
Yeah, I just wish they would just kind of leave it one or the other. Like just change it once and then just don't change it again. Um, either way, because eventually it's gonna alter and days are gonna get longer or shorter or wherever. Just because of the position of the sun. But I just wish I find that the changing is a little bit disruptive. And so that bothers me quite a bit.
Yeah.
Um, to me is probably optimum. I'm not a huge of like, it getting dark at like, 9 o'clock. That's not me. Um, Partly maybe because I am up so early, so I'm winding down by I'm wound down by then. I'm not even winding down. I'm done by then, most nights. But I feel like it's really it's just about finding your natural rhythm. And I think I'm a huge like I really try to honor, and this year I think I felt it even more. I really try to honor the timing. Like I really try to honor this year, especially this whole idea of introspection and reflection and the winter being colder. And I guess it was the perfect winter for that because it was so cold and it was so snowy here. So kind of had that very hibernating kind of feeling to me. And so I really honored that. And I think that I kind of took that for what it was. And then now, as the spring is coming, what I'm noticing is I've been really like, I'm on it's like I feel like every time I go outside, I'm on this quest for green and for like bulbs and plants. It's like a mission. It's like, can I see sprouts yet? Just like, And I was on with a friend of mine the other day. She's like, you could buy a flowery plant for your house. I said, yes, I do that. And I have one in my window and I've been watching this bulb kind of sprout up. But I said, but it's not the same as seeing it outside.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I've been on this kind of mission over the past like week or two since it got a little warmer and since the clocks changed, and I keep on looking. I'm like, do I see bulbs yet? Are there daffodils yet? Are there crocuses yet? So I keep on looking.
Yeah. That was when we came home Thursday and walked across the front lawn so I didn't have to go up the steep steps and to get into the house. Saw the first crocus, and then my vision, I just started looking around the yard and there was a second one. And then suddenly there's 15 crocuses. Look at that. They're all here. That means it's spring.
Yeah, I haven't seen many at all. And so I just been kind of, I have a few students who sent me pictures because I was commenting on that. I was like, they were like, no, they're here. And I'm like, okay, well, not where I'm living and not that I'm seeing that much, but I'm still looking, which is fine. And so we were laughing about that. But that's been very much like on my, in my focus of late is that feeling of like, oh, okay, what's out there and being one with the season. I think that when we talk about wellness, I think that part of it is honoring that, and that also does not fit in with the normal way our society exists. Same thing of eating seasonally. Same thing, eating seasonally and then also honoring the timing. That things exist at it, that we function, I think is really important because I think that, during the winter was not meant, we were not meant to go gallivanting necessarily.
Yeah. It's a different kind of gallivanting, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
For me, I think that the winter is more of a young person's gallivanting season. And when I think about what we used to do and the the way that winter used to occur, we had a lot more snow. I think in the 60s and 70s, and maybe even the 80s than we did through the 90s and 2000s. And then this year is kind of an anomaly given the last 5 or 6 years that we've had in terms of how much snow we did get and how many days was it below zero.
Hmm.
And two major blizzard storms this season. And so the snow never really melted from the middle of January until into March. So we had 2 full months where there was snow on the ground. And we just haven't seen that a lot in the last few years.
Not at all. And I would, yes, that was something of the, probably at, well, 60s, 70s, probably earlier than that too.
Right.
It has not been something that's been occurring in our part of the country or in our part of the world for a number of years. And so, yeah, but I think I felt that. I think I felt that in the way, in what I chose to do because of the weather and what I felt called to do.
Yeah, this year I felt called to get in my convertible and drive to Florida for the month of January.
I know you did. I know you did.
It was just, I've done that a few times in the last 2 or 3 years. And the last time I came home, I had to come home because we had a relative that was very ill. And so my gallivant, as I call it, was called short, and I had to hoof it back home in a hurry. But what was really nice about this trip, even though there were some things that happened that were not so fun, I had 10 days to spend with my blushing bride, really literally doing next to nothing except for being in each other's company, which is nice because we found out, yeah, we still do that okay. We're aware of some folks who their marriages last because they hardly ever spend any time together, later on in life.
Mm-hmm.
But we both still feel like there's nobody else that we'd rather hang out with, and so that's kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
Other part of it is she by nature she's a busy bee. She's pretty much got to be hoofing it, doing something, some kind of busy work when she's home. And when she's been working as many days as she has been, probably the last 5, 6 months, um, when she gets home, she's either falling asleep in the chair or she's doing all these little tasks. And it is literally busy work. And what was neat on this trip is I could see her after the third day being totally satisfied, just sitting quietly reading a book. It was very satisfying to see her calm, not feeling like we need to do something or we need to go somewhere, that it was perfectly fine to just sit there and enjoy the moment. And to see her at peace and calmed down and enjoying a little bit different time than we typically get to experience up here, given our normal schedule. That was made everything worthwhile. As a matter of fact, that's why I added 3 more days to the end of our trip. And after our week's planned stay was over, we went and spent 3 more nights at an Airbnb, again, just to hang out with each other.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the things that you brought up, Bill, that you just said, Bill, but I thought that like part of it struck me is, no matter what season you're in and where you are, it's one is either finding somehow to make, well, I guess both ways, to make the best of whatever that is. So for me, there was something very um beautiful about being indoors and being home and being, you know, I mean, I'm working online, so it's not like my mother's like, I always have something to do. Kind of like, it's not like I'm sitting there and have a lack of things that I'm engaged in, but still having that opportunity to kind of sit there and say, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this. And then if that's not what caused you, is finding something that will. Like for you, it was getting, venturing out and saying, okay, well, this isn't really, I'm going to go and I'm going to spend time in a warmer climate at the moment. But it's finding out what you need in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. There comes a time when you have to stop doing and start listening. When you're kind of going hell bent from one thing to the next with all of the noise that goes on in your mind, about what isn't being done or what should have been done or whatever it is that's going on. Or maybe it's just listening to NPR or something. I don't know what people do. But if you get an opportunity every once in a while and it's okay that it's quiet, I think that's an opportunity to really experience an upgraded life.
Oh, I mean, to me, quiet or silence or pausing is the key to everything.
Yep.
It really is. Mm. It, it's just,
Trying to remember, it was somebody who said, a philosopher who said, the man that can stand the sound of his own thoughts, rules the world. Because most people can't.
well, yeah, and that's where people don't like it. Um, but I think we learn so much when we can be in the quiet and in the pause where all the learning happens.
Yeah. It seems like a good place to take it.
I'm just thinking if that's a good line. All the learning happens in the pause.
Yes. Yeah, that's the space that has nothing. That's where creation occurs.
That's right. I think I have to write that down.
So anyhow, how do we summarize our little chat?
I don't know. You go, Bill. How do you want to summarize?
Well, I'm gonna leave what we said as a gift to those who have been listening. And that you're listening, you're actively participating in this conversation. And your energy we're feeling it on this side of the time and space continuum. We know you're out there. And if there's something of value that you got out of this, would you take some action on it? Because I don't think that, thoughts that are not acted on are very powerful. If there's some kind of action that's indicated or some thought that you had that it would be a really good idea to do something, even if it's just taking the time to sit quietly for 15 or 20 minutes. Can you bring that into your life for a moment? Can you give yourself permission that whatever it is that you're doing, that just for today and just for a little while, you'll just do the best that you can. Just the best that you can. Give yourself the space, to be able to operate for a moment and then grant yourself the reward of maybe a little bit of silence where you can consider and maybe take a moment or two to appreciate and feel some gratitude and some grace about this life that you have. Especially if you're one of those that's kind of thrown to finding the problems in life and articulating what's not working. Give yourself a little break. Find one thing in your life that you're truly graciously thankful for, and then be filled with gratitude for a moment or two. if you can, as best as you can.
Beautiful, Bill. And I think I'm sitting with this fact that I've been spending a lot of time reading and reading of late, and it's all around not when I say content, it's not being, it's just acknowledging who you are and just realizing that's more than enough. That's more than enough. Yeah,
The evidence for that is it always has been.
it always has been. That's right. We just have to remember that and to recognize it.
Yes.
I read a quote the other day, which I've shared. I shared on Friday, from an article that um, and then I shared it again this morning just because I thought it was, um, by Paulo Coelho, who wrote The Alchemist. And he said, maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you were meant to be in the first place. I so loved that because I thought it's so true.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time in our life when we're young trying to become something.
Yeah.
And then we spend the rest of our lives trying to unbecome everything we thought we needed to be, to realize we were complete or we were whole or enough to begin with.
When you start realizing that this quest for authenticity is not an additive process, it's not a different technique. It's not being able to be wise enough to say the appropriate and right thing. That what it sometimes just comes down to is you need to pass gas. It's just who you are in the moment that's completely devoid of anything added to it. And sometimes it's silence. But I like what you're saying. We're
Thank you.
unlearning our much practiced bad habits.
That's right. We're unbecoming everything that isn't really us, that we were told we needed to be, that we were programmed by society or
Yes.
upbringing or school and how we were supposed to be, what we were supposed to do and whatever. And it's finally unbecoming all that.
Amazing. Yeah. Dale Carnegie is good if you want to stand out in a crowd of crowds. But if you want to be a happy person in your skin, observe the people that are standing out in a crowd of crowds. And notice what they feel is missing. And then support them. I love it. Generous spirit. Not too loud, not too proud. But maybe what's called for in the moment that might not even sound totally appropriate. But when it gets heard, it makes a difference. So how will you enjoy your 65-degree day today, my friend?
I will head out for a little while. I was out earlier and I think that, yesterday I was out and it was pretty warm, but I had a chilly wind.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that it's supposed to be just as windy this afternoon. So I'm hoping that it's not as, because I had a very nippy wind yesterday. I had almost, and so I was like, it's warm out, but it still had that. So I'm hoping to get outside a little bit. Yeah, and take a walk, look for the spring that I'm on a continuous quest to find.
the silent spring.
Yeah.
So, my good friend, would you like to extend the invitation to our listeners?
Oh, sure. So, for all of you out there listening, thank you. Take a moment this week and, okay, let's say this. Take a moment this week and maybe you can think of one person to share this podcast with, share this recording with, that might benefit or it might help. The other thing is, take a moment this week to connect with a few people who maybe you haven't connected with in a while and just let them know that you're thinking of them, that they matter, that you're wishing them well. Maybe, if it feels called to do anything, you can just do that, or you can ask them if they need anything, but extend a little kindness.
Amen. That's beautiful. Well, thank you, Jan.
Thank you, Bill.
We are lighting the candle, a world that works. Please do us a favor, go out and live your best life, and then come back and tell us all about it, please. Bye for now.
Bye-bye, everybody.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, a World That Works, part of the Exvadio podcast network. You can catch every episode of Lighting the Candle, as well as the rest of the network, at exvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts.